What's up, guys? Welcome to the Momentum Trading Lab. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe, and let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the daily chart on the Nasdaq. So the outlook this morning, let me quickly go back to the Discord. So this was the outlook for this morning. To me, it still seemed like we were drawing to the upside towards the daily fair value gap, and then also obviously towards the previous day high where the buy side liquidity would reside. And then also we came from sell side, so it seemed likely that we would move to some sort of bearish fair value gap or buy side liquidity. And then as you can see, during the course of the day, we took out the previous day high at, it was at 14,946, and then we wicked into that fair value gap. I still think we will make our way to this fair value gap potentially during the course of next week. Of course, we also have that little volume imbalance in between these fair value gaps, and then we have another fair value gap right here that starts at 15,460, and then we have the relative equal highs where we will have buy side liquidity residing above 15,723 and 15,860. Right, so and if we also have a look at the momentum master B indicator, the momentum and the strength is pointing to the upside. Money flow is still pointing down, but we could see this start to curve back to the upside on the next candle. So this candle, the market closes in 4 hours, and then it will open again on Sunday evening. Then we might see the money flow indicator start to curve back to the upside, and then we will have all of the indicators on the momentum master pointing to the upside. All right, so not really much else on the daily chart. I'm gonna quickly go to the weekly. So it looks like on the weekly it's printing this reversal candle. And then there's also a trading concept called TGIF. So if we were going up during the course of the week, normally on a Friday, price action will retrace about 20%. Let's quickly, or 25%. Let's see if that has already happened. Okay, so we had the high right here at 15,060, and it already came back past the 25% retracement. It's just in between the 25 and the equilibrium. So I think the TGIF setup on a Friday has already played out. And then also on the weekly, the stochastics is resetting. And then right here, this is a bullish condition. That is when we have the money flow below the RSI and far away from it. Momentum is resetting, and then the Williams, which is the strength indication, is also resetting. So there's a couple of bullish signals on the weekly chart for the Nasdaq. Okay, before we go to the lower term time frames, I just want to have a look at the dollar index. Okay, so on the momentum master B, everything is basically overextended. The momentum is starting to point to the downside. And then if we have a closer look at the normalized MACD, which is a faster MACD than the normal one, it's starting to roll over, and it looks like we could see a bearish cross on the next candle. And then we are also getting the bearish alarm on the Williams, which is the strength indication. And this also looks like a bearish divergence. So we have a high and a lower high. And on price, we have a high and a higher high. So that's normally an indication that the trend is likely to reverse. So over here, we've had an uptrend. So it's likely that the dollar could potentially retrace a bit. I don't think it's going to retrace too much. It is looking bullish. And Like we've mentioned during the weekend last week, it looks like the dollar index is gravitating towards these highs where the buy side liquidity resides. And then we also have on the daily chart, we have this untouched imbalance. So it looks like it is gravitating towards those liquidity pools and the imbalances. And then we also have this larger imbalance on the weekly that starts at 107.274 and the upper end of the gap is at 110.426. Okay, and then for this little impulse to the upside from this low to the high, we came back into the equilibrium into a discount, and it looks like it is printing a reversal candle on the daily chart. Okay, and then this was the high of the bearish order block. So I was referring to these consecutive up close candles for the bearish order block. It's pretty interesting how it came exactly to that level and then started to retrace. And there was a bit of an imbalance right there. So it came back, repriced in that area, and then it just touched into this order block candle. And now it looks like it is starting to reverse. Okay, so we also had the imbalance right there on the 4 hour with a low. So that would have been, so that's your sell side liquidity. So that dipped into it. To me, it looks like it is going to gravitate back to this imbalance. This one starts at 106.531 and ends at 106.605. Get a Fibonacci from the high to the low. Okay, then we basically have that imbalance right there at the OTE. So that fair value gap is right in between the Fibonacci 786 and the 706. Have a look at the momentum master. Okay, so the momentum and the strength wants to push to the upside. And then the Williams is also starting to curl around. So it came down. Now it's starting to level out and it looks like it wants to push back to the upside. We look at the momentum master light. So on the light, it's just if we have a look at the baseline moving averages, you'll notice that we had this one coming down, purple, which is the bearish color, and then it started to flip blue right here. Now price action is gravitating back to the upside, still holding this moving average. Okay, just want to have a quick look at the 1 hour as well. Okay, so the 1 hour stepped into that 4 hour liquidity pool. Looks like it's struggling right here at this imbalance. Starting to print some wicks. So I think on a shorter term basis, it will probably retrace a little bit. The momentum is starting to top out as well. Pull a Fibonacci on this. Okay, then the equilibrium, the 0.5 on your Fibonacci is in alignment with this level right here. Okay, so to me it looks like we'll see something like this. Retrace, let the 1 hour reset, gain momentum and strength again. Come and reprice this area, just touch the discount zone and then make a push towards that imbalance on the 4 hour chart. Oh, before I forget, I just remembered Bulenox currently has a huge sale going on, so you can get any of the option one accounts with a 90% discount if you use the code MTL. And the link for the Bulenox website is in the description for the live stream. So definitely check it out. I think you can get a 50k account for $17 if I remember correctly. All right, let's go back to the Nasdaq. Okay, so now it looks like we are getting a bit more downside. So wicked into the fair value gap. You can see now it came back. Go back to the dollar. Want to see if there's any imbalances on the 1 hour. So there's some highs right there. Because on the 1 hour we have the buy side liquidity pool right there in alignment with the 4 hour imbalance. It looks like it wants to draw to that area. If we'll get the retrace, I'm not sure. Looks like it just wants to move straight to that area. We'll see the 1 hour is getting overextended. See this is a bullish sign, so we have the stochastic coming down, but price action is just consolidating and now it's starting to move to the upside. So that's a bullish indication that the momentum came down, but price action stayed sideways. We have a bearish cross, but it looks like it's about to flip bullish again. Okay, one thing we have to just keep an eye on is the imbalance that we have between these candles. So this is a volume imbalance. Okay, now we're getting a pretty big down close candle. Okay, let me remove some of these lines. Yeah, we still have the previous day low untouched. We already came for the previous day high, knocked out all of the buy side liquidity. So that was the high right here at 14,947. So just dig into that liquidity and into the liquidity above this high, into the daily fair value gap. And then also just look at, it looks like it came exactly into the midpoint of this imbalance. They came right to the midpoint of the imbalance and then started to displace to the downside. Okay, so now that I took some buy side liquidity and the displacement is starting to become visible on a larger time frame, I think now it is ready to go back towards the previous day low. So the smart money or the larger players can pair up their short positions with the sell stops below these lows. Okay, so the buy side on the higher term time frames has been taken. Okay, let's quickly get the 8:30 opening price. I know the market opens at 9:30, but 8:30 is the algorithmic opening price. Okay, so 8:30. Okay, so ideally, if you are bearish, then you want to be looking for short positions above the 830 opening price. If you are bullish, you want to be looking for longs below the 830 opening price. And then if you trade the London session, then you can use the same methodology using the midnight opening price. And that is on New York time or Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so let's hide the midnight opening price. So this kind of also acts as a mean reversion line. So this is kind of the mean on price action. Okay, so just to get a feel for price action, I wasn't able to trade the morning session. I had somewhere to drive. So I kept an eye on price action for the first part of the silver bullet, and I didn't get an entry. So let's just quickly review the what happened during the day. I think we had high impact news today as well. Yeah, so we had a core PCE price index at 8:30, and then we also had high folder news at 10 a.m. So 8:30 was right there. Then they pushed it to the upside. The open was right there. So at the open, they normally run it into a liquidity pool, which would have been this one right here. So the high. Oh yes, so okay, this was the high. Oh, this was from last week. Yes, okay, so I took out the high from last week. If we go back to the weekly chart. Sorry, that was the high from last Friday. Okay, so this is the open. So the open, we had this little Judas swing into the buy side liquidity. Started to displace to the downside. That's your fair value gap. So that's your indication that there was displacement to the downside and bearish order flow. Have a look at that on the 2 minute. All right, so 10 o'clock. Your silver bullet started right here. So that would have been your silver bullet fair value gap with your stop above the previous high, or you can put it right above this one and then you would have potentially been knocked out. And then the target would have been the first opposing liquidity pool, which would have been these relative equal lows. So that could have been about 70 points. And see, it came and then it came back right into this imbalance and then started to dump again to the downside. All right, so the afternoon session started about 9 minutes ago. Kill zone starts in 21 minutes, and then the afternoon silver bullet starts at 2 p.m. New York time. Okay, so we are digging into that low. Okay, so the bias for the morning session was to the upside because it looked like it was expanding towards the previous day high and the imbalance. But now that we took some of the buy side liquidity and repriced in the fair value gap, it seems like for the afternoon session we will move towards sell side liquidity. Okay, there's a low right there, and this was from the Asian session, 9 o'clock. Just a relative equal lows. Also have an imbalance right there. And then the previous day low, which was the low formed at around 9 o'clock. So basically at the start of the New York session on Thursday. So that will be a high liquidity low. So it looks like perhaps for the afternoon session, they take it back to sell side and more specifically the previous day low. You see on the 15-minute, we flipped into bearish market structure. So over here, we were trending to the upside. We're basically making a series of higher highs and higher lows. And then right at this point, this was the last higher low. We displaced below that low, came back into a 15-minute fair value gap, and then started to dump again. Okay, so this will kind of be your next area of interest if we can get a retracement back into this box, which starts at 14,896. Upper end is at 14,923. And for this little impulse to the downside, the fair value gap is in the premium side of the range and it's squeezed in between that equilibrium and the OTE levels, which I like. Okay, so if it kind of turns around from here into this box, then we can look for displacement to the downside on the 1 minute and the 2 minute chart with bearish divergence. I like using the Optima for that. And then we can go short towards this level would be the low hanging fruit target. So let's just say from the midpoint back to sell side is about 85 points. If you go back to the 1 hour, so the 1 hour is also displaced below the last higher low. So on the 1 hour, we are also flipping into bearish market structure. Okay, let's have a look at the 5 minute. The imbalances is visible on the 5 minute as well. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on this level to potentially get short and then run it to this level. Well, this will be my second target if we start to turn around from here. Then that will be TP1 and this will be TP2. And then I'll keep a runner to see if we can get to this level by the end of the trading day. All right, I think I'm gonna keep it short, seeing that it's Friday and the market is closing in about 3 hours or so. So that's basically what I'm looking at. It seems we'll get a retracement back into the fair value gap. Then we can get short, and then we play it to the downside. It looks like the drawn liquidity has flipped for now after we took the buy side and we displaced to the downside, telling us that the larger players bought up the stops for the people that went short and had their stops in this area. We can see it with the displacement that's now visible on the 4 and the 1 hour. And we are flipping to bearish market structure on multiple time frames. So we have it on the 1 hour. That was the last higher low. So on the 15 minute, that was the last higher low, displaced below that. And then definitely on the 5 minute, we are also in bearish market structure. So I think if we can be patient, let it come into this level, let it print a bearish market structure shift, because for instance on the 1 minute it will have to flip to bullish market structure to get back there. So once it gets into this area, just simply wait for that shift of the market structure. So it's just displaced past the very last higher low, and then more confluence would be if you see the divergence right there. So a high and a higher high, and on your oscillator, a high and a lower high right there. Or you can wait and see if you get a divergence right there on the retrace into the fair value gap. So then you will be looking for a high and a lower high, and on the RSI or your divergence indicator, a high and a higher high. That will be your last signal for your entry, and then you play it towards those liquidity pools that we identified. All right, that's it for my view for the afternoon. I'm gonna be picky. I had a great week, and I don't want to give any of the gains back. I've not taken a trade today, and I won't mind if I don't get anything. So it's gonna have to be a A+ setup, and this is currently what I'm looking at. But we can also potentially scalp it, right? So if it goes straight to the liquidity pool level, right? So you can also keep an eye on this level. If it just goes straight here without going back, and we take sell side, then we can potentially just scalp it back into that fair value gap, and that will still be a bunch of points on the table. So if we from this point don't start to move to the upside, then we can look for this to play out. So wait for it to dig into the liquidity, and then the key is to see displacement. So you want to see a fair value gap print on that displacement, and that will tell you that you can enter on a discount PD array, so a fair value gap or a bullish order block or a breaker block or just a Fibonacci OTE entry, whatever you prefer. And then we play it towards that imbalance right there, and that should be a nice little trade to end off the trading week. All right, I think that is that. Thank you very much for everyone that tuned in today. If you're not in the Discord, the link is in the description. I tried my best to do some updates in there during the day, and I'm probably gonna look at some crypto setups over the weekend, and then I will post it in there. So I'll see you guys in the Discord, and until next time, thank you guys very much.